When the time of the festival came, more than 1 billion souls, besides the Etherian hosts, had congregated in horde to witness and to participate in the ceremonies. Su said, "Here is wisdom and folly, false gods and their dupes, laziness and industry, swiftness and sloth. Yes, here is a world worthless before XII. And why, yes, why is it worthless, this current juxtaposition of laziness and industry? Simply for lack of discipline and harmony. Everyone is for self, and none are producers for the general good. Alas, they are the same as mortals, but stripped of flesh. They are of no value to one another, and consequently of no value to themselves. Now I, Su, will show you, O God, that these hapless unfortunate beings, with no joy in life or hope of resurrection, shall become a great glory to the Father and his kingdoms." God said, "Pity them, these tragic beings, O Father XII. It is over 1,000 years since they have been visited by the higher heaven. Many of them are learned, but doubting if there are other heavens, except the plateaus of the atmosphere of the earth. Millions and millions of them have never seen an Etherian. Alas, I fear for them." Su said, "Fear not, O God. They, the inhabitants of earth, are like mortar in my hands. Neither shall there be preaching to them, nor praying for them. They are tired of these things. But I, Su, will found a new light among them, and it shall speak for us. Hear me, then, with the populace I shall be as one that is unknown. Call, then, your essenors, and your trumpeters and harpists, and all the musicians belonging to your kingdom and to the kingdoms of your lords, and let the procession begin. For in all public matters those who are at the front, if wise, can lead on forever. Be politic, expedient, therefore, and shape the populace while the self-gods, who are already gone from this procession, are amazed at the immensity of the hosts assembled." God did as commanded, and the people saw there was a head to the proceedings. Su said, "Send your marshals and decorators to follow close behind the musicians, distributing raiment to all who will follow in the procession. My Etherian hosts are advised. They will stand by the way, and, with marvelous swiftness, provide the raiment. All possible extravagant colors and fabrics, hats and ornaments, shall be gratuitously, freely, distributed. My hosts, the hosts of Su, shall be arrayed in plain white, and they shall not march, but be as servants and workmen. And when the atmosphereans have played and sung, over all the boundaries of horde, then my Etherian band shall sing and play, and start the dance." All these things of preparation were done, and from the very start to the termination of the music, there was harmony in every place and corner among the billions assembled. Nor was there ever a so extravagantly equipped multitude in the earth's heaven. And so completely captivated were the people, that their enthusiasm was boundless. Then came the Etherian dance, which so surpassed the capacity of the atmosphereans that not one could join in. Nor could they take part in the Etherian music. So the atmosphereans looked on, confounded by the excellence of that which was before their eyes performed by the Etherians. Thus ended the first day's proceedings with such awe-inducing moments, which to describe in full would require a large book. So the people were called to refreshment. And the Etherians, still dressed in white, and as servants and laborers, provided the viands, the deliciously prepared foods. For, they had previously prepared a supply of material. And so easily and swiftly did they do their work, that now, for the first time, the more learned of Atmospheria began to observe them with surprise and wonder. Presently inquiries were made as to who they, these Etherians, were and where they came from. For so XII created man, that when of his own accord, he admires the excellence of his neighbor, he goes to the extreme in praising him. So God said, "Tomorrow a new entertainment shall be given, and new raiment and new viands, foods, for the feast." And the host shouted with great vigor and praise. Then the people mingled together to converse on all they had witnessed. Neither did they comprehend the object, the goal, except for pleasure only. When the next day came, the Etherians had been divided into groups, and the rites of the ancients, and of the hosts of Agi and Partha, were announced, requiring extravagant preparations, including costuming and other accessories, grooming, set design, etc., and millions of atmosphereans as assistants. So great was the atmosphereans' ambition to take part, that it was only by promises of something in the next rites, that the marshals were able to make selections. Su, Jehovah's son, had previously stationed signal bells at remote distances from one another, but connected them so that the sounds would answer quickly. And in the intervening places, extemporize, which is to say, improvise forests and waterfalls were arranged, and near the middle space, 1,000 columns of fire were erected. So, in the morning of the second day, when all these glorious scenes of Su's fashioning were completed, with the Etherians still plain and in white stationed here and there, the atmosphereans were more confounded than ever, and more loudly shouting in their praise. First came the birth rites, then marriage rites, then death rites and the first resurrection, then the rites of harmony. And the play represented 1,000,000 Etherians who went to a corporeal world and followed it through its life, and to death and resurrection, its darkness, disharmony and terrible suffering in Atmospheria, ending with a tableau, a portrayal of a great Son of Light descending, to deliver them into everlasting paradise. So grand was the spectacle and so sublime the music and spoken words, that the hosts of Horde wept, and laughed, and shouted, and prayed, as if their souls would break with joy. Thus ended the second day, with such theater, and so complete was the glorious work that every soul had sworn a solemn oath to forsake, yes, abandon the earth and lower heaven forever. Then God announced for the third day, the display of Etherian power. And the people were so bewildered already that a child could have led the most stubborn of all. For thus Jehovah created man, who, having become much conceited in himself, turns right around and makes himself a submissive fool. So, on the third day, the Etherians displayed their power over the elements of the atmosphere, making corporeal substances, and dissolving them at pleasure so effortlessly, when and as they desired, making light into darkness, and darkness into light, weaving fabrics, making diadems and precious stones, gathering viands, foods, from the essence of things evaporated up from the earth, founding plateaus and temples in heaven, making ships and chains and musical instruments. And, lastly, the Etherian marshals, with 500,000 Etherians, turned the winds, and sent a heavy shower of rain down to the corporeal earth, an activity witnessed, and therefore known by spiritualists, but never to such a grandiose scale. And all that time, the musicians of the hosts of Su were playing music, the sweetness and grandeur of which so greatly surpassed that of atmospherians, that any of theirs would be as nothing in comparison. So, because of the exhibition of great power and wisdom, the third day had changed the fortunes and aspirations of every man and woman in the lower heaven. And they were running here and there, pleading to be taken as apprentices or servants, pledging themselves to do anything required of them. Neither would they be put off, demanding that half of the next day should be given to initiating them as real beginners in the second resurrection. Then God spoke to them of the lower heaven, saying, "You do not know what you ask. Behold, I have commanded you for hundreds of years, to put away your fine raiment and sparkling gems, and to begin adorning your souls, so as to become brides and bridegrooms of the Great Spirit. But you of the lower heaven would not, but strove continually to adorn yourselves, forgetting to labor for those beneath you. Behold, Jehovah's brides and bridegrooms now stand before you. What is their worth compared to yours? Are they not plain? And are you not decorated?" But millions of voices rose up, saying, "We will do whatever you command, O God. There is no God like you." Then God spoke, saying, "Hear me, then, further. To begin the second resurrection requires this: to put away your jewels, diadems, ornaments, and, above all things, to forsake self, and from this time forward to labor for others who are beneath you. If you do this in a brotherhood, you are already beginning the second resurrection. Neither is there any other road to wisdom and power." Again the multitude of the lower heaven cried out, "We will do anything. We have faith." And God answered them, saying, "Permit then a few to be initiated tomorrow, but be patient, and of good judgment, slow to resolve, but firm forever." So on the fourth day, in the morning, behold, more than 100 million spirits had abandoned their showy raiment and stood arrayed in white, devoid of jewels and diadems, ready to be initiated, and take the vows of the second resurrection. Accordingly new music was prepared, and the procession and ceremonies so arranged, that the greatest possible glory would be manifested. Canopies were stretched overhead, and on the borders of the march, arches and columns were placed, decorated with flowers and vines. And amid these, half concealed, were nestled the response singers, who were to speak for and with the initiates. But concealed from view, and at a distance, were bells and explosives, which were the morning signals. And the glad and solemn sound of the immortal voice came upon the souls of millions impatient to vow themselves to a new life, and God and his hosts welcomed them with great joy. So grand and imposing were the ceremonies, that, before midday, another 100 million came, robed in white, to be initiated also. Nor did the people desire any other entertainment. And so the initiations were continued on the fifth day, and again, another 100 million applied, also robed in white. And this was continued on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th days. And, lo and behold, look and see, 1 billion angels had taken the vows of the second resurrection.